Have you ever noticed that there's a group of people who seem to live in a world different from yours? They make quick decisions, are never taken advantage of, grow quietly, and earn the respect of even those who dislike them. Meanwhile, you strive, try to be fair, try to be correct, and yet you continue to be ignored, underestimated, or even used. This isn't your fault. It's a lack of access to the same rules they follow. Ancient, powerful, and hidden rules. Rules written centuries ago by a brilliant mind named Machiavelli, but which still silently govern human relationships, business, politics, and even the people you interact with daily. What nobody told you is that the elites never played the same game as you. They play with an advantage. While they taught you to be humble, they learned to use the appearance of virtue to gain ground. While they told you that good intentions are enough, they discovered that the world only respects results. While they convinced you that love is more important, they understood that respect is born from boundaries, not from sympathy. And perhaps this hurts a little to hear, but the people who advance the most in life are not the kindest. They are the most strategic. They follow laws you never learned, laws considered too strong, too raw, too ugly to be taught to most. But precisely for that reason, they are effective. And today, for the first time, you will have access to these 12 forbidden laws of power, not to manipulate anyone, but to finally stop being manipulated, to see what lies behind the social masks, the disguised good intentions, the silent games that take place in every environment. If you feel discomfort while listening, great. It's a sign that you are awakening. And if you decide to apply what you learn here, well, get ready. The way you relate to people and the way they see you will never be the same again. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder you are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. He realizes early on that in the game of life, true strength lies not in being good all the time, but in understanding when to wear the right mask. Machiavelli already warned, in a politics guided by reality, not ideals, the appearance of virtue is often worth more than real virtue. And this is not hypocrisy, it's strategy. When he displays controlled gentleness, he is not feigning character. He is using a symbolic armor that protects him from predictable attacks. The world moves by perceptions, and those who master this logic understand that the end justifies the means when the goal is to maintain their peace, their focus, and their projects alive. Notice how influential leaders use this trick daily. They are cordial, but never too accessible, sympathetic but never exposed, polite but always calculating the impact of each word. It is the calculated use of the most discreet force that exists, the force of appearance. It's not about manipulation, but about not allowing naivete to create openings for attacks. The person who understands this constantly adapts because they know that true human nature responds more to appearances than to reality. And that's where the mask does its job. It conserves energy, filters out opportunists, and attracts exactly those who should stay close, preparing the ground for the harsher laws of power that will come later. He discovers over time that displaying all his unfiltered kindness is like entering battle without a shield. The appearance of virtue functions as currency in the social world, and the powerful have used this currency for centuries. from Renaissance rulers to modern CEOs. When someone maintains an image of integrity, organization, and stability, even if behind the scenes they are making decisions based on real human nature, they attract trust, respect, and opportunities. That's how the game works. Those who appear trustworthy receive doors that the innocent, sincere, yet vulnerable will never see. Use this practically. Take care of how you present yourself at work, refine your communication, select the battles worth fighting. It's not about pretending, it's about projecting what you truly want the world to recognize. Machiavelli would call this controlling the narrative, an essential step to avoid being hated without reason, because even excessive kindness can generate envy and resentment. Observe how successful people maintain a calculated cordiality without leaving room for emotional intrusions. This mask, far from being a deception, is a tool that prevents burnout, preserves your focus, and prepares the ground for building your own loyal armies along the journey. He understands that fundamentally, strategic kindness creates a kind of neutral zone where no one can easily attack him. People believe what they see, and seeing someone with an appearance of virtue disarms the natural impulse to criticize. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, he acts with constant adaptability, making firm, rational decisions guided by reality, not by the expectations of others. It's curious. When he tries to be 100% transparent, he is attacked. When he shows only what is necessary, he is respected. It seems unfair, but it's just human dynamics at work. Want a simple example? When you are too kind, some take advantage. When you maintain a firm kindness, no one tries to test your limits twice. This mask allows him to navigate between different groups without creating unnecessary friction while strengthening his reputation as someone balanced. And this kind of reputation is like an invisible shield. The most interesting thing is that the more he masters this art, the more he realizes that true virtue only has value when protected, and that other cherished illusions, such as absolute loyalty, begin to reveal themselves before his eyes. He learns early on that loyalty is too beautiful a word to be blindly trusted. Machiavelli already warned that in a politics guided by reality and not by romantic ideals, absolute loyalty is as rare as it is dangerous. People change when their conveniences change, and expecting eternal fidelity is to ignore true human nature. That's why he begins to cultivate allies, not friends, because allies are bonds built on clear interests, while friends can become traitors when the winds of fortune change. He realizes that the calculated use of force is not only physical, but also emotional, saying no when necessary, setting limits, demanding consistency. Those who build their own loyal armies understand that these bonds arise from respect, not blind affection. True loyalty is not demanded, it is observed over time, and he learns to discreetly test people, not to manipulate them, but to calibrate his expectations of them. That's how he stops being repeatedly disappointed and begins to better select who enters his circle. And by understanding this mechanism, he opens up space to confront an even harsher truth about power. Fear almost always wins over love. He begins to notice that the greatest betrayals of his life didn't come from declared enemies, but from people who swore eternal loyalty. This realization changes everything. By understanding that people act out of self-interest, and that this isn't malice, but simply constant adaptability, he stops romanticizing relationships and begins to analyze them strategically. In practice, this means observing actions, not words, patterns, not promises. If someone only shows up when they need something, he adjusts his expectations. If someone respects boundaries even when there's no advantage, he gets closer. This is how you cultivate lasting alliances, by making clear what the common ground is. Want to apply this to real life? Start by defining where you want to be in the next 12 months. Then, Identify who truly strengthens your journey and who only drains your energy. As Machiavelli would teach, avoiding being hated also involves not giving your complete trust to those who haven't yet earned it. And when this new perspective takes hold, he understands that even love, so celebrated, can be a trap when it's not balanced by respect and firmness. He realizes that loyalty bought with affection is unstable, but loyalty built with clarity is unshakable. Therefore, he begins to treat relationships as silent pacts. Each person receives exactly the space they have demonstrated they know how to occupy. Nothing more, nothing less. This allows him to build his own loyal armies, people who bet on him because they know he delivers results, not because they seek approval. The end justifies the means when the goal is to protect his peace and purpose, and this includes leaving behind ties that keep him small. Have you noticed that the most emotionally strong people don't promise loyalty, they demonstrate it? This distinction changes the whole game. He understands that blindly trusting is like handing over the keys to your own fortress to someone who may not even know how to protect it. So he begins to trust gradually, strategically, observing each step. And just when this new posture solidifies, he discovers something even more provocative, that in the territory of power, fear, used in the right way, works much better than love. He discovers, almost as if stumbling upon an uncomfortable truth, that love is an unstable feeling, while fear, used wisely, is a predictable force. Machiavelli already said that, in a politics guided by reality and not by ideals, love depends on the will of the other, but fear depends only on you. This doesn't mean being cruel. It means understanding real human nature. People love while they are comfortable, but they respect when they perceive clear, non-negotiable and firmly established limits. The calculated use of force is not in shouting, but in maintaining composure. A simple, "I don't accept this," changes more relationships than years of trying to please. He understands that the end justifies the means when the means is to protect his value. And he realizes, with some relief, that avoiding being hated doesn't require being loved, only being firm. Curiously, when he becomes firmer, people start treating him better. Love can generate emotional dependence. Healthy fear generates respect. And it is precisely this transformation that opens the door to the next brutal layer of power, realizing that your good intentions mean absolutely nothing to the world. He begins to realize that great leaders, from ancient generals to modern executives, never base their authority on the desire to be loved, but on the ability to establish non-negotiable boundaries. When someone depends on constant approval, they lose constant adaptability because they stop acting according to reality and start acting according to others' expectations. Love makes you hesitate. Respect makes you move forward. And in practice, how does this apply? Think of a team leader. When he tries to be the nice guy, he becomes an emotional doormat. When he sets clear standards, he builds his own loyal armies. Life works the same way. He begins to realize that even personal relationships improve when he makes it clear what he tolerates and what he doesn't. It's not about intimidation. It's about eliminating the ambiguity that allows manipulation. The appearance of virtue remains. He remains polite, cordial, fair, but now tempered by firmness. And this powerful combination makes people naturally reconsider exceeding his limits, leading him to understand the next point. The world doesn't reward intention, it rewards results. As he accepts this truth, his life begins to change. He realizes that being loved often means being comfortable for others, while being respected means being recognized as someone who knows what they want. And when he finally experiences the feeling of no longer bending to avoid conflict, he understands why fear, healthy, symbolic, silent fear, works better than love. Notice how confident people don't need to raise their voices. Their posture already communicates that they will not be easily swayed. This is the calculated use of force in its most elegant form. He learns that maintaining firm boundaries is more effective than dramatic declarations. And paradoxically, when he stops seeking love, he begins to receive more respect. It is this respect that enables him to survive power games where others succumb. But as soon as this insight solidifies, he realizes another uncomfortable truth. In a world where everyone judges outcomes, his good intentions, however pure they may be, mean absolutely nothing. He discovers, sometimes painfully, that the world doesn't judge what he intended to do, only what he delivered. Machiavelli already taught that a policy guided by reality, not by ideals, needs to accept that good intentions are irrelevant when the impact is nil. The end justifies the means when the end is the concrete result, not the emotional intention that motivated it. He realizes that in work, in life and in relationships, no one rewards him for having tried hard, only for having accomplished something. Real human nature works like this. People need to see, feel, and experience the effect of actions. It's no use wanting to be promoted if you don't generate value. It's no use wanting to be respected if you don't act with poise. This doesn't harden him. It awakens him. He realizes that results are the only universal language of power. And when he begins to act with constant adaptability, understanding that each movement must produce something visible, life begins to respond. But along with this awakening comes the next uncomfortable truth. Morality, so celebrated in speeches, is often a luxury reserved for the weak. He begins to notice that the people who talk most about good intentions are often the same ones who deliver the least results. It's a silent but universal pattern. The professional who spends months planning but never executes. The friend who promises to change but repeats the same mistakes. The leader who dreams big but doesn't move a single brick. Machiavelli would call this ignoring virtù and fortuna, personal strength and opportunity working together. When he finally understands that intention without action is fantasy, he begins to change his way of operating. Want to apply this in practice? Define a simple 30-day goal and execute something daily, even if small. Read books like Atomic Habits to learn how to generate micro results, and The Prince to understand why impact matters more than purity. Gradually, he realizes that being judged by intentions is comfortable, but being judged by results is liberating because it puts control of his own life in his own hands. And it is precisely at this moment that he begins to question the moral rules that have kept him chained for years. He understands that relying on good intentions is an elegant form of escape. When he blames external situations for the lack of results, he loses power. When he accepts that the world reacts to what he does and not to what he feels, he regains his strength. The appearance of virtue remains useful, of course, but now he combines it with real commitment. He realizes that even the most sincere praise loses its meaning if there is no action behind it. Results create loyalty, create respect, create loyal armies of one's own, while intention creates only pretty stories. From this, his life gains clarity. Everything he wants depends on what he does, not on what he desires. It is in this awakening that he begins to see why so many people remain trapped in a rigid and unproductive moral sense. While the powerful silently bend these rules when necessary, he discovers that while he lives bound by a rigid moral code, others advance precisely because they know when to bend the rules. Machiavelli taught that in a politics guided by reality and not by ideals, absolute morality functions as invisible shackles. The powerful understand that true human nature is driven by self-interest, not virtue. The end justifies the means when the goal is to protect one's life, name, and position. He realizes that the people who preach moralism the most are usually the ones who achieve the least results. and that those who dominate the game know that the appearance of virtue is worth much more than inflexible virtue. It's not about being evil, but about being adaptable. In some situations, he needs to defend himself firmly. In others, he needs to negotiate silently. And in others, he needs to retreat to attack later. This is constant adaptability. That's why impactful leaders know when to show kindness and when to apply the calculated use of force. And in understanding this, he realizes something even more strategic. Revealing one's true intentions is suicide in the world of power. He begins to realize that morality, when used as an absolute shield, makes him predictable. And predictability is weakness. Predictable people are easily manipulated because everyone knows exactly how they will react. But when he operates with flexibility as someone who knows that the world rewards action and not purity, he becomes difficult to read. Look at great business leaders. They maintain an impeccable public image, an appearance of virtue, while behind the scenes they make tough, sometimes unpopular, but necessary decisions to save hundreds of jobs. This is not cruelty. It is strategy based on real human nature. He understands that he doesn't need to act correctly in the eyes of others, but rather effectively. Want something practical? Stop saying yes to everything just to appear morally exemplary. Say no when necessary. Set boundaries. Protect your time. Gradually, he realizes that those who try to appear too perfect attract envy and attacks. But those who act with consistency and quiet strength attract respect. And this realization opens the way for the next truth. Intention revealed too much becomes a weapon against you. He understands that, while he tries to be morally impeccable, others are creating more efficient paths because they don't hesitate when they need to make difficult decisions. The world doesn't reward those who want to do everything right. It rewards those who do what needs to be done without losing focus. Absolute morality makes your actions slow, burdensome, and full of guilt. But strategic morality, the kind that adapts to reality, opens doors. He learns that it's possible to maintain principles without being a prisoner of them, that it's possible to be ethical without being naive, that it's possible to act virtuously without relinquishing one's own strength. It's like generals who, to preserve their army, choose battles that seem dishonorable but avoid catastrophic defeats. And so he realizes that he doesn't need to be perfect, only effective. It is at this point that he understands that real power requires discretion and that he should never, ever show his true intentions. He realizes, almost as if opening a secret door, that total transparency is one of the greatest weaknesses of any person. Machiavelli already warned that in a politics guided by reality and not by romantic ideals, opening your heart is the same as handing over a complete map of your vulnerabilities. Whoever knows what you want knows exactly how to control you. And whoever controls your motivations controls your movements. He learns that the appearance of virtue functions as a protective curtain. He shows what is necessary, never what is essential. The end justifies the means when the objective is to protect his purpose, his peace, and his most ambitious projects. Real human nature reacts to opportunities, and many will use your declared intentions as tools against you, not out of pure malice, but out of convenience. He understands that constant adaptability requires strategic silence. Thus, instead of announcing his plans, he begins to execute them in discrete steps. And he realizes that as he speaks less, his strength increases. But this silence reveals another truth. Unbridled generosity is another field where many lose power without realizing it. He discovers that revealing too much makes one predictable, and predictability eliminates any advantage in the power game. When everyone knows his goals, they know where to attack. When everyone knows his limits, they know where to apply pressure. When everyone knows his desires, they know how to manipulate him. Therefore, he cultivates enigma. He says less than he thinks, promises less than he can deliver, and shows only what strengthens his reputation. Want a practical example? When building a project, he avoids announcing it to everyone. Instead, he shows concrete results after consolidating the first steps. This creates impact and protects his strategy. Think of great modern strategists. They never reveal the complete plan. They reveal small moves that build reputation and avoid being hated while protecting their own loyal armies. The calculated use of force here is silent. It's knowing that guarded information is worth more than a beautiful speech. And when he realizes that this narrative control increases his strength, he begins to see the next point more clearly. Giving too much, without calculation, destroys his value. He understands that hiding his intentions isn't being deceitful. It's being strategic. True human nature is driven by curiosity, competition, and self-interest, and those who reveal everything unknowingly provide ammunition to the enemy. Therefore, he develops the skill of light speech, vague answers, and a smile that reveals nothing. He speaks enough to appear present, but not enough to be deciphered. And the more he masters this art, the more he realizes that the world treats with more respect those who remain unpredictable. This unpredictability creates space to make decisions based on the reality of the moment, not on expectations placed upon him by others. This is constant adaptability in its purest form. He realizes that the less he explains, the more people respect him, and the more they respect him, the less they test his limits. But as this skill strengthens, he discovers the other side of the coin. Generosity without strategy can be a real poison for his position. He often discovers too late that giving too much is the quickest way to lose value. Machiavelli already warned that in a politics guided by reality and not by ideals, excessive generosity creates dependence, and dependence creates contempt. People start expecting more than you can deliver, and when you fail, no matter the reason, they turn against you. It's real human nature acting without filters. The end justifies the means when the goal is to preserve your energy, your focus, and your position. He realizes that when he gives without calculation, what should generate gratitude generates entitlement. And nothing destroys a relationship, personal or professional, more than transforming kindness into obligation. The calculated use of force here lies in knowing how to say no without guilt. He learns that his generosity should serve his growth, not the inflated ego of others. And by adopting this approach, he realizes that his life begins to attract people who respect him, not those who drain him. But this change opens space for a new perception. Allies are useful, but enemies can be even more so. He understands that, however paradoxical it may seem, unrestrained generosity is a subtle form of emotional suicide. When he gives without limits, he makes it clear that his strength can be exploited. When he gives without criteria, he shows that he is willing to give up himself to maintain an appearance of virtue, something that leaves him vulnerable. Machiavelli would call this a serious strategic error. Avoiding being hated doesn't mean giving everything to everyone. It means acting justly but firmly. Want a practical application? Establish a ceiling on the energy, time, and attention you can truly invest in people. If someone constantly exceeds that, cut 30% of their access. You're not being cruel, you're preserving your strength. Powerful leaders practice this silently. They are generous, but strategic. They help, but don't sacrifice themselves. They offer, but don't negate themselves. Constant adaptability requires balance, and balance requires clear limits. And when he learns to balance generosity with self-preservation, he realizes an even more surprising law. His enemies are more valuable than he imagined. He realizes that generosity, when unfiltered, destroys his reputation. Those who give too much without discretion appear weak. Those who give in moderation appear strong and trustworthy. One's own loyal armies are not formed with favors, but with respect. And respect is born from limits, not from endless concessions. He discovers that giving a little well is better than giving a lot poorly, that helping a strategic person today can open 3 doors tomorrow, while helping someone without commitment to their development only generates wear and tear. The appearance of virtue remains important, of course, but now tempered by rationality. He learns to use his generosity as a tool, not as a prison. And while doing so, he notices a surprising truth. Sometimes it is an enemy that keeps him alert, strong, and in motion. It is this mental shift that opens the way for the next brutal principle of power. Your enemies are more useful than your allies. He realizes that in real life, it is enemies, not allies, that keep him awake. Machiavelli already taught that in a politics guided by reality, not by romantic ideals, opposition is necessary to sharpen your virtue and seize fortune when it appears. An ally can comfort you. An enemy forces you to evolve. While friends often reinforce your comfort zone, adversaries reveal your weaknesses, and revelation is power. Real human nature shows that healthy rivalry generates growth. It is the enemy who tests your limits, who exposes your naivete, who forces you to use constant adaptability. He realizes that avoiding being hated doesn't mean avoiding conflict. It means not being destroyed by it. And he understands that the end justifies the means when the goal is to become stronger, not more loved. Each symbolic blow he receives becomes fuel to refine his strategies. And so, he begins to respect the presence of adversaries as much as he values allies. But this new perspective leads to an even more provocative truth. Sometimes it is necessary to apply small cruelties to avoid greater tragedies. He discovers that enemies reveal who he truly is. They show whether his stance is firm or fragile, whether his strategy is solid or illusory. Machiavelli would say that loyal armies of one's own emerge when one faces adversity that filters out who is truly on their side. Want a practical example? A professional only discovers the strength of their team when a crisis arises. An entrepreneur only hones their vision when competition threatens. A student only evolves when they realize they are behind and decide to surpass them. Enemies are distorted but useful mirrors, showing what needs to be adjusted. And he learns not to hate them, but to analyze them. The appearance of virtue remains, but now accompanied by a cold and calculated intelligence. He observes how his adversaries move, how they think, how they attack, and uses this information as a silent weapon. Constant adaptability means learning even from those who want to bring you down. And when he absorbs this wisdom, he understands something deeper. Eliminating all adversaries weakens you because no one else will test your strength. That's where the Machiavellian paradox comes in. A little cruelty can, in the end, be an act of mercy. He realizes that every enemy has a use. One teaches him discipline, another resilience, another strategy. Without opposition, his virtue weakens. With opposition, it becomes sharp as a blade. And this changes his relationship with conflict. He begins to see the adversary not as a threat, but as a resource. An enemy forces you to act, to think, to adapt, while allies can lull you into comfort. Real human nature responds better to pressure than to praise. And when he accepts this, he realizes that growth depends more on challenges than on congratulations. But this growth requires difficult choices. Sometimes it is necessary to cut someone off before that person destroys everything around them. Sometimes it is necessary to apply small cruelties, such as distancing, confronting, or imposing harsh limits to prevent greater damage in the future. And upon reaching this point, he touches upon a profound law of power. Cruelty well applied can be more merciful than any gesture of kindness. he discovers that well-applied cruelty is not evil, it's responsibility. Machiavelli explained that in a politics guided by reality, not ideals, small strategic cruelties prevent greater disasters. And when he observes real human nature, he realizes that this is true in work, in relationships, and in life itself. Sometimes saying no sharply saves years of wear and tear. Sometimes ending a cycle early prevents future betrayal. The end justifies the means when the means avoid prolonged suffering. He learns that the appearance of virtue has its value, but virtue without firmness becomes weakness, and weakness protects no one. Want a simple example? A leader who avoids giving tough feedback allows small mistakes to turn into gigantic failures, while a leader who applies punctual cruelty, firm, clear, direct, corrects the course before the ship sinks. This is the calculated use of force, and by understanding this logic, he begins to see that true compassion requires courage, not gentleness. But this courage also requires radical honesty. He realizes that well-applied cruelty is, in fact, an act of protection, both for himself and for others. Cutting toxic ties, establishing non-negotiable boundaries, distancing manipulators, firing those who harm the team, refusing to help those who only leech off others. All of this seems harsh, but it is merciful in the long run. Machiavelli knew that loyal and personal armies only function when there is discipline, and discipline requires firmness. Constant adaptability demands that he know when to loosen and when to harden. When he tries to be too nice, he creates monsters. When he applies surgical cruelty, he creates order. Real human nature responds much more to clarity than to nebulous gentleness. Want a practical example for personal life? Instead of repeatedly forgiving someone who always fails you, impose a real consequence the third time, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. This cruelty, applied at the right moment, prevents years of wear and tear from destroying your energy. And when he realizes this, he understands why the next law is so powerful. Raw truth generates more respect than any polite lie. He begins to notice that strategic cruelty has something that infinite kindness will never have: effectiveness. Small cuts prevent hemorrhages. Small ruptures prevent collapses. Small confrontations prevent emotional wars. And that is precisely why the powerful always apply harshness at the beginning, never at the end, because they know that prevention is more merciful than late cure. The appearance of virtue remains useful, but now he combines this image with decisions based on reality, not on the fear of seeming too harsh. When he does this, his life becomes lighter because order replaces chaos. He understands that using strategic cruelty doesn't make him a bad person. It makes him an efficient protector of his own stability. And this efficiency naturally leads him to the next principle. Brutal honesty creates more respect than any pious lie. He discovers that the truth, spoken clearly, has a power that no polite lie can replicate. Machiavelli already stated that in a politics guided by reality and not by ideals, brutal honesty builds more solid respect than any embellished discourse. Real human nature always responds better to what is firm than to what is agreeable. When he begins to speak the truth, not cruelly, but precisely, he realizes that his stance changes the dynamics of relationships. The appearance of virtue remains, but now sustained by force, not by fear of displeasing. He understands that the end justifies the means when the goal is to build authentic bonds, not relationships based on fragile illusions. Want a simple example? Saying, "This bothers me and I don't accept it this way," creates immediate respect. Smiling and swallowing the situation creates resentment and loss of value. He realizes that the calculated use of force is not only physical, but also verbal. It's aligning discourse and truth. And little by little, he realizes that this direct honesty opens doors to a lighter life. But this requires abandoning over-preparation and taking action. even when afraid. He begins to notice that white lies, while comfortable in the short term, always exact a high price in the future. They create false expectations, fuel illusions, and distort reality. Machiavelli would say it's impossible to govern your own life if you mask the truth to please others. Brutal honesty liberates you because it eliminates ambiguity. It creates its own loyal armies, people who trust you because they know your words mean exactly what they say. Want a practical application? Instead of making excuses to decline invitations, say, "I can't, because that's not a priority for me right now." Instead of promising something you won't deliver, say, "I can't take that on at this time." That's constant adaptability, aligning your agenda with your truth. Furthermore, truth repels manipulators and attracts strong allies. This shift, however, reveals a new challenge: stopping waiting for the perfect moment to speak, act, or decide. He understands that brutal honesty is a gateway to action because it eliminates the need for flowery justifications that only hold him back. True human nature respects those who take a stand, even if the content is uncomfortable. Great leaders, great executors, and great visionaries have this in common. They say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. The appearance of virtue remains, but now underpinned by transparency and consistency. The calculated use of force here is verbal. Speak less, but speak with precision. And this leads him to realize that brutal honesty not only strengthens relationships, but sets him in motion. He stops waiting for the world's permission to act and begins to build his own path. And just when this truth takes hold, the following law emerges: fortune favors those who act, not those who plan eternally. He realizes that the world rewards those who act, not those who remain trapped in the illusion of eternal preparation. Machiavelli taught that fortune, that unpredictable force that governs half of our achievements, only benefits those with enough virtue to move even when the path is unclear. A policy guided by reality demands action, not perfection. And he discovers that, while he plans too much, others with fewer resources, less preparation, and less talent simply begin. Real human nature admires courage, not intention. The end justifies the means when the goal is to break free from paralysis and create movement. He realizes that constant adaptability is more important than the ideal plan. Want a practical example? Instead of waiting for the right moment to start a business, he creates the first simple offer. Instead of studying for 3 months to record a perfect video, he records one today with what he has. And in this process, he understands that fortune is wind, but wind doesn't help a stationary boat. And this movement brings him face to face with another truth: reputation weighs more than reality. He discovers that over-preparation is an elegant form of procrastination. It looks like discipline, but it's disguised fear. He realizes that the great names in history, from politics to business, always took the plunge before they were ready. They trusted in their ability to adjust course as they went. That's the calculated use of force applied to their own destiny. The appearance of virtue here comes from the courage to try, even when they fail in real life. And the truth is, they do fail many times, but that doesn't stop them. Want a practical application? Instead of studying investment for a year, he buys his first value stock today, companies like Itaú, Petrobras, Apple, or Tesla, and learns from the process. Instead of consuming more content about productivity, he sets a small daily goal and achieves it. Real human nature responds to what is concrete, and when he creates this habit of acting, his life changes in months, not years. However, this progress awakens another realization: how the world sees him matters more than what he really is. He finally understands that action generates confidence, movement generates opportunities, and execution generates authority. Too much planning generates anxiety, and fortune, always volatile, favors those in the field, not those analyzing structures from the stands. He notices that the appearance of virtue, when combined with constant action, creates reputation. And reputation is a more valuable currency than any perfect plan. Loyal armies follow leaders who act, not leaders who only talk. And when he begins to act, he realizes that his image changes in the eyes of others. He ceases to be the one who promises and becomes the one who delivers. It is at this point that he understands that his inner reality is important, of course, but irrelevant if the world does not perceive its value. Real human nature reacts to what it sees, never to what you feel. And it is precisely here that the last overwhelming law emerges. Your reputation is worth more than your reality. He discovers, almost with astonishment, that the world doesn't react to what he truly is, but to what he appears to be. Machiavelli already explained that, in a politics guided by reality and not by ideals, reputation is a more powerful shield than any inner virtue. Real human nature judges by the surface, not by the depth. And this is not malice, it is mental efficiency. People don't have time to analyze their essence. They respond to what they perceive in the first few seconds. That's why the appearance of virtue is so essential. It shapes expectations, opens doors, and creates opportunities. The end justifies the means when the means is to build an image that protects and projects you. He realizes that, however qualified he may be, if his reputation is weak, his chances evaporate. And conversely, when the reputation is strong, even mistakes are forgiven. It is at this point that he understands that it is not enough to be good. It is necessary to appear good, to appear strong, to appear trustworthy. And this requires strategy, not naivete. He begins to realize that reputation is an asset built in silence and destroyed in seconds. Loyal armies follow leaders whose image inspires confidence, and this confidence is born from perceived consistency, not internal truth. Constant adaptability teaches him that if he wants greater results, he must control his narrative. It's not manipulation, it's responsibility. Want a practical example? At work, he takes care of his posture, his words, and his consistent small deliverables. On social media, he shares value, not despair. In his personal life, he doesn't expose unnecessary weaknesses to people who don't deserve access. Machiavelli would say that avoiding being hated comes down to this: managing one's image in a way that limits attacks and maximizes respect. He realizes that reputation works like emotional credit. The more he has, the more he can risk. The less he has, the more vulnerable he becomes. And when he understands this deeply, he recognizes that reputation defines how the world reacts to every step he takes. He learns that reputation is often more powerful than reality, and that reality only matters when there is already a reputation to support it. A brilliant man with a bad reputation is ignored. An average man with a good reputation is followed. It's harsh, but that's how real human nature operates. The calculated use of force here lies in knowing when to reveal, when to hide, when to speak, and when to remain silent. He realizes that building reputation is building power, and that power is not something you declare, it's something others recognize. And the more he masters this skill, the clearer it becomes what Machiavelli argued. The world is shaped by perceptions, and whoever controls perceptions controls the game. He realizes that now that he has internalized all 12 forbidden laws, he is ready to see the world with new eyes and to enter the introduction that ties it all together as a revelation that only the attentive few have discovered. Now that you know these 12 forbidden laws of power, let me ask you a simple but uncomfortable question. What will change in your life tomorrow? Because knowing all this and continuing to live the same way is like possessing a sharp sword and insisting on fighting with empty hands. The truth is, no one will give you respect, space, or dignity. You earn it, and you earn it by applying each of these laws at your own pace, with intelligence and courage. Look honestly at your life. In what areas have you been too nice? Where have you given more than you receive? Who is taking advantage of your transparency, your generosity, or your good intentions? And most importantly, who would you become if you stopped acting as others expect you to act and started acting like someone who deeply understands true human nature? You are not hearing these words by chance. Perhaps this is the moment to abandon the role of spectator and assume the role of strategist of your own story. So, before you go, answer this in the comments. Which of these laws do you know you need to apply immediately? Write it down. Take responsibility. Declare it. Change begins the moment you stop hiding your own truth. If this video opened your mind, if it gave you clarity, strength, and strategy, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you'll continue learning what no one else dares to teach you about power, the human mind, and personal transformation. The game is just beginning, and now you finally have the right rules.